My name is Muhammad Waqar Azim, and today we are going to learn together what is equitable assessment, how do we implement equitable assessment in our evaluation and courses. So the objectives as stated are to identify equitable assessment and to implement an equitable assessment strategy. So equitable assessment is defined as a way for us to ensure that all students, regardless of their background, learning preferences, or abilities, have a fair opportunity to demonstrate their learning and skills. So what exactly equitable assessment do? It mitigates barriers to success for the students. It helps students to overcome challenges grounded in disabilities, cultural differences, and unequal access to resources. In order to implement equitable assessment, we as instructional designers must prioritize fairness, accessibility, and inclusivity in our assessment practices. And we can do all this by making sure that we have multiple assessment formats. We give choices to the students in terms of how they would like to be assessed for a particular course or segment of learning. We can also ensure implementation of equitable assessment by addressing UDL for diverse learning styles, making our material accessible, keeping our language bias-free when we write down the instructions for our assessments. Especially, we should look for any gender-based or culture-related biases. We should also make sure that our instructions are consistent, we are flexible in our deadlines, and the assessment as we give the assessment to the students, they are formative, which means that each and every assessment does not come with a very heavy grade. Now, again, in order to keep our assessment more equitable, we need to make them fair. And by fairness of assessment, we mean removing the barriers which could put some of the students or groups of students at a disadvantage. So we need to make sure that we provide accommodation for any kind of limitations students might experience. We need to make sure that our assessment align with learning objectives, and we should also need to have a reliable rubric and grading criteria, and we need to share that with the students in advance. And then in addition to making sure that our assessment is fair, we also need to make sure that our assessment is valid. So a valid assessment is a kind of assessment which ensure that the results of an assessment truly reflect what the assessment intends to reflect. So in order to make our assessment valid, we should make sure that we are avoiding irrelevant content, which means we are not trying to assess which is not taught as such or which is not included in the learning outcomes. We should also continue to review and revise our assessments. And finally, our instructions for the assessment should be very clear and transparent for the students to understand. And then finally, our assessment should be reliable. So reliability of the assessment means that the outcomes of the assessment are repeatable and they are measuring what they are supposed to measure. And the results should be stable, they should be dependable. So in order to make sure that our assessment is reliable, we need to have clear and specific criteria. We should also try to pilot all the new test assessments. We should also pilot test all the new assessments, and then we should review the results for consistency, and we should also train the graders. If we have graders to review the assessments, we should train them so that they adhere to a uniform criteria while assessing all the assignments. Now, once we have gone over the major features of equitable assessment, and we have learned that in order to make our assessment equitable, we need to make sure that our assessment has validity and it is fair and it is reliable. This is the time now for us to do an assignment to demonstrate our understanding of equitable assessment. So I'm asking you to choose or create an assessment and explain to what extent it is equitable, especially review that assessment in terms of its fairness, validity, and reliability. Your explanation and review should have 4 parts. Number 1, assessment description or instructions. Number 2, your reflection as to what extent the assessment is equitable. Comment on fairness, validity, and reliability of the assessment. And finally, state the ways to improve the assessment in terms of its equitability. So at the end of this lesson, I'm very thankful to our instructor, Daniel Berancota. I have recycled and reused a lot of material and content from his course, which he is currently teaching us, titled Equitable Assessment. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to email me. Thank you.